Growing up in the public eye, where millions of people see nothing but neat smiles and bows, is a concept few can truly understand. For Charlotte, it was a reality she knew all too well. The world had celebrated her birth from the moment she was born. Cameras captured her every move, and news stories claimed her arrival would go down in history. Many speculated on what her life might become, but those bright and cheerful narratives never truly captured the complexity of her reality. Charlotte's earliest memories were a blend of quiet family moments and the vivid, loud bustle of her daily life. She remembered walking through the halls of Kensington Palace as her brother George chased her, their laughter echoing through the grand spaces. In those moments, she felt free, wrapped in the safety of her home. Yet, even from a young age, she sensed something amiss in her family. It wasn't until she grew older and understood the weight of her surname, Mountbatten Windsor, that the pieces began to fall into place. There were times when the gravity of her role hit her unexpectedly. A doorbell would ring, and her mother would appear in a perfectly tailored dress while her father adjusted his tie. They spoke in hushed, serious tones, explaining their next royal engagement. Charlotte would don another carefully selected dress, practice her smile, and step into a world where every gesture and expression was scrutinized. As she aged, her curiosity about her role in this grand narrative deepened. At first, it was a quiet interest that surfaced in solitary moments. She would leaf through photo albums with her mother or nanny, poring over images of her family's storied past. She saw her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, standing regally beside world leaders. She noticed her father as a young boy, clutching Princess Diana's hand, his expression a blend of innocence and understanding. There were also images of herself, waving and smiling for the cameras, a beloved young princess, yet privately questioning everything. Why did so many strangers find her family so fascinating? Why did people she had never met know her name? Her parents, always patient and loving, did their best to answer these questions, emphasizing the importance of kindness, duty, and service. But for Charlotte, these answers only sparked more curiosity. She wanted to know not just what her role entailed, but why it existed in the first place. Over time, Charlotte began to notice how her life diverged from her school friends. While they could revel in the anonymity of childhood, she was constantly under public scrutiny. At first, this attention felt strange and uncomfortable. But as she grew older, she began to view it as both a challenge and a puzzle to unravel. Her questions became more focused, and so did her desire to understand her unique position. She often lay awake at night in her bedroom, listening to the sounds of the castle, wondering what life might have been like if she weren't a princess. What if she didn't have to smile for photographs or wave to crowds? Why couldn't she blend in and be free? Though such thoughts lingered, Charlotte knew deep down that she was part of something far greater than herself. This awareness was reinforced by her parents' dedication to their duties, her great-grandmother's unwavering poise, and the way the world perceived her family, not as individuals, but as symbols. Still, Charlotte experienced moments of pure, unfiltered joy that reminded her of her essence when no one was watching. She loved playing hide-and-seek in the expansive rooms of Anmer Hall, running barefoot through the gardens with her brothers, and curling up with her mother for bedtime stories. These moments of childhood freedom grounded her, allowing her to cherish the person she was beyond the public eye. These were the times when she felt grounded and could forget about the cameras and the demands, if only for a short time. But she was always interested in new things. Each year grew brighter for her, thanks to the stories she heard, the things she saw, and the questions that kept arising in her mind. Charlotte didn't just want to do her part, she wanted to understand it. As she sat by the window that morning, watching the garden sway gently in the wind, she realized that being a part of history wasn't enough. She wanted to explore her place in it. After having this thought, she rose from her chair and looked into a mirror. She saw herself, not as the little girl people often thought her to be, but as someone who was learning, growing, and preparing for a future she was only beginning to comprehend. The spark of curiosity inside her had blossomed into a deep desire to uncover the truth of her story, one step at a time. To those observing from the outside, Princess Charlotte's early years appeared almost perfect. Born in May 2015, her arrival brought joy to people worldwide. Within minutes, images of her parents leaving the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital with her, swaddled in a delicate white shawl, circulated across the globe. She symbolized stability and was seen as a comforting link to the monarchy's future. However, as the baby in her mother's arms, she couldn't yet grasp or feel the weight of what she represented. The cheers and flashing cameras marked the beginning of a journey she hadn't chosen but would one day come to understand. Charlotte displayed a vibrant personality from an early age. She was both brave and mischievous, with a natural curiosity about the world around her. Much of her early life unfolded at Kensington Palace, where its expansive grounds and manicured gardens became her first playground. Day after day, she shared laughter and playtime with her older brother George and later her younger brother Louis. During these moments, the concerns of the world beyond the palace walls were far removed from her reality. Her parents, William and Kate, were committed to providing their children with a stable, loving home. To Charlotte, they weren't the next king and queen, but simply mom and dad. Catherine, in particular, made a conscious effort to shield her children from the pressures of royal life while instilling in them an understanding of their responsibilities. Bedtime stories, baking sessions, and arts and crafts filled their days, creating a sense of normalcy amidst their extraordinary circumstances. During these formative years, Charlotte developed a meaningful relationship with her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. Despite her numerous state duties and ceremonies, the Queen always prioritized time with her family. When Charlotte visited Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, she felt safe, loved, and gently guided. The Queen had a unique ability to balance authority with affection, making her great-grandchildren feel valued and understood. Charlotte had an early, vivid memory of a special tea at Windsor, where she was captivated by the Queen's stories of her own childhood. Elizabeth shared anecdotes about facing the challenges of royal life during World War II, including driving ambulances and learning mechanics to contribute to the war effort. For Charlotte, these stories were more than mere entertainment, they were lessons in strength, duty, and resilience during tough times. As Charlotte grew older, she became increasingly aware of the duality of her world. On one side was the peaceful, carefree environment of home, where she could laugh and explore without constraints. On the other was the weight of her royal identity, with its expectations and responsibilities waiting for her to understand and embrace. The polished public world of royal events stood in stark contrast to the more relaxed moments of ordinary life. Every smile, wave, and curtsy during these events was carefully observed by countless people. In 2016, Charlotte made her first public appearance as a princess on the steps of Buckingham Palace during the Trooping the Colour. Tentatively waving at the enormous crowd below while being held by her mother, Charlotte's wide-eyed curiosity was captured by cameras from every angle. These moments highlighted how different her life was compared to other children her age. While her peers enjoyed simple pleasures like birthday parties and school sports days, Charlotte was introduced to a world steeped in tradition and spectacle. This difference was especially pronounced during everyday conversations with school friends, who shared stories of family vacations or trips to amusement parks, leaving her to wonder what those experiences might be like. Yet Charlotte never expressed anger or jealousy. Instead, she accepted her unique life, understanding that it brought both challenges and extraordinary opportunities. As Charlotte grew, she began to take a greater interest in her role within the royal family, becoming increasingly aware of the global attention she received. During quiet moments with her parents or at family dinners, she would ask questions about her place in the world. After one royal event, she asked her mother, "Why do those people wave at us? Why do they care about us and what we stand for?" Kate responded with kindness and wisdom, sharing the perspective she had gained from her own experiences. She explained that the public's attention came with a responsibility to care for them in return. These brief but meaningful conversations planted the seeds of understanding in Charlotte, teaching her that being a princess wasn't merely about wearing elegant clothes or appearing on grand balconies. Instead, it was about connecting with others, helping those in need, and standing for something greater than herself. Charlotte found inspiration in the example set by her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's unwavering dedication to her duties and strong sense of purpose left a lasting impression on Charlotte, even though she didn't fully grasp their significance at the time. As she grew older, Charlotte sought to strike a balance between her private life and the public's expectations. She cherished time with her family, particularly at Anmer Hall in Norfolk, the Cambridge family's country home. Here, she could climb trees, help her mother tend the garden, and play with the family dogs. These moments of freedom were vital, allowing her to savor the simple joys of childhood. However, even in these quiet times, the presence of her public persona loomed, with security guards and occasional intrusions from reporters reminding her of her unique position. To protect their children, Charlotte's parents made every effort to create a sense of normalcy while preparing them for their future roles. This balance was crucial in shaping Charlotte into a curious and independent young woman, aware of the special responsibilities she carried. Her life was filled with privilege and opportunity, but it also demanded resilience, strength, and a deep sense of purpose. Growing up without significant responsibilities in her early years, Charlotte gradually embraced the discipline and rules required of her role as a princess. By the age of 6, she had become more comfortable with her public identity, blending the innocence of childhood with an emerging understanding of her unique place in the world. While her life was extraordinary, Charlotte was determined to make her story her own, navigating the complexities of royalty with grace and a growing sense of self. As the heir to the throne, Charlotte's bigger brother George received most of the public's attention. However, Charlotte, the only daughter of the Prince and Princess of Wales and their middle child, held a unique position. She was more than a sister or daughter, she represented continuity and served as a bridge between the old and the new. School became one of the few places where Charlotte could escape the constant gaze of cameras and enjoy some privacy. She attended Thomas's Battersea, the same school as her brother George. There, she quickly gained a reputation among her classmates and teachers as smart, confident, and cheeky in the best way. In the classroom, she was simply Charlotte, a curious student who loved reading and art. During lunch, she laughed with her friends and played games on the field with enthusiasm. Yet, even at school, the rules of her royal life followed her. Peers whispered about her family, and some asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. Although her teachers treated her like any other student, they were always mindful of who she was. When Charlotte appeared in public, her personality began to shine. She mastered the royal wave, her small hand moving with a grace that made her seem younger than her age. Cameras often caught her playful moments, like smiling cheekily or tugging her father's hand with determination. She charmed the public with her cheerful expressions, whether at Princess Eugenie's wedding or during family outings, often stealing the spotlight with her natural charisma. Charlotte started finding the balance between being formal and being herself. However, she wasn't immune to moments of introspection. As she grew older, she began to question aspects of her life and role. Why did people always take pictures of her? Why was her family under constant scrutiny? These were not questions with simple answers, they required time, context, and thoughtful guidance. Her parents understood the importance of preparing their children for the future while protecting them from undue pressure. Open conversations were encouraged at home, with Kate particularly emphasizing empathy and the value of helping others. She framed the family's responsibilities as opportunities to contribute positively to the world. One defining moment in Charlotte's early public life was the Platinum Jubilee celebrations for Queen Elizabeth II. The 4-day event was a grand affair, with parades, music, and street parties across the nation. Charlotte, impeccably dressed as always, stood alongside her family during the Trooping the Colour ceremony, observing the festivities marking her great-grandmother's extraordinary 70-year reign. Despite the overwhelming scale of the event, Charlotte remained composed, displaying a maturity beyond her years. Even amid the grandeur, Charlotte's relatable and human side shone through. From the Buckingham Palace balcony, she was caught on camera laughing and chatting with her brother George during the air show. Later, at the Platinum Party at the palace, she clapped along to the music, her infectious joy captivating those around her. Moments like these endeared her to the public, showcasing the royal family as approachable and down-to-earth despite their status. Nevertheless, these events were not without challenges. The long hours, the need to remain composed, and the omnipresent cameras could be exhausting, especially for a child. Through it all, Charlotte began to navigate her role with growing confidence, blending her individuality with the demands of royal life. Charlotte sometimes felt the weight of the demands placed upon her, but she was fortunate to have family members who were always there for her during challenging times. Her parents, William and Kate, made it a priority to check in with their children, ensuring they felt safe and valued. Charlotte was able to handle these situations with confidence and ease, thanks to the way her parents raised her, a combination of discipline and warmth. As she entered her preteen years, Charlotte's relationship with her brothers grew increasingly significant. George, the oldest, often shared the stage with her at public events. Their mutual respect and close bond as siblings helped them navigate their unique roles. While George took his future duties as king seriously, he also had a knack for lightening the mood with a joke or a playful nudge. Meanwhile, Louis, the youngest, brought a sense of joy and spontaneity to the group. His uninhibited laughter and carefree movements reminded Charlotte that fun and laughter were still essential, even in the structured world of royal responsibilities. At home, the siblings rarely left each other's sides. They spent hours playing together, building pillow forts, running through the grounds, and exchanging stories at dinner. These moments of connection brought Charlotte a sense of grounding and strength, enabling her to face the more challenging aspects of her life. She didn't just see her brothers as family. They were like teammates, bound by their shared journey and unique experiences. As Charlotte approached her preteen years, she also began to understand the impact of her family's work on others. Accompanying her parents to various events, she observed how they engaged with people from all walks of life. One poignant memory for Charlotte was a visit to a children's hospital, where she watched her mother kneel to speak gently with a young patient. The kindness and warmth her mother showed left a lasting impression on Charlotte, teaching her the importance of connecting with others and showing compassion. These seemingly small yet meaningful moments began to shift Charlotte's perspective on her role in the royal family. She came to realize that her presence and her family's work weren't just about rituals or photo opportunities, they were about bringing hope and comfort to those in need. This understanding helped Charlotte see her life's purpose beyond herself. It was about helping others and making a difference. As Charlotte matured, she grew more confident in her ability to navigate the complexities of her world. She wasn't merely a smiling princess in the public eye, she became a thoughtful and compassionate individual seeking to find her place in her family's legacy. The journey wasn't always easy, but Charlotte faced it with the resilience and grace that had become her hallmark. Over time, she began to grasp the deeper significance of her role within the royal family. While she had always known that people were interested in her life, it wasn't until the passing of her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, that she truly understood the weight of duty and the importance of memory, not just for her family but for the nation and the Commonwealth. The Queen's death marked a turning point in Charlotte's life, bringing a deeper awareness of the responsibilities that lay ahead. Charlotte, though only 7 years old at the time, found herself in the midst of history during the days leading up to the Queen's state funeral. There were numerous preparations, solemn rituals, and heartfelt tributes honoring the late Queen. Despite being accustomed to public appearances, this moment felt profoundly different. The grief was palpable, reverberating through Buckingham Palace and beyond, touching everyone present. For Charlotte, it was a deeply personal loss. The Queen was more than a renowned figure, she was a beloved great-grandmother whose presence would never be forgotten. On the day of the funeral, Charlotte carried herself with remarkable composure. Dressed in black, she wore a small horseshoe brooch on her coat, a gift from the Queen. Standing alongside her parents and her brother George, she faced the somber occasion with dignity. The streets were filled with mourners, their quiet respect a testament to the Queen's significance in the lives of so many. Inside Westminster Abbey, the ceremony was grand yet deeply solemn. Even the adults found the hymns, prayers, and moments of reflection emotionally overwhelming. For Charlotte, it was more than just a family gathering, it was an event of immense historical importance, one that would be remembered for years to come. As the service progressed, Charlotte's emotions began to surface. Despite her efforts to remain calm, she gripped the program tightly, her lips pressed into a thin line. When the band started playing a hymn loved by the Queen, her tears began to fall uncontrollably. Cameras captured this raw moment of vulnerability, broadcasting it to millions worldwide. It was rare for a young royal to display such genuine emotion, and the sight deeply resonated with those who watched. Charlotte felt both embarrassed and relieved in that moment, unable to hold back her tears. Her mother, noticing her distress, leaned down to comfort her with a gentle hand on her back. Her father stood tall beside her, offering a look of pride and understanding. Even in the public eye, these small acts of kindness reminded Charlotte that she was not alone. The response to Charlotte's tears was immediate and widespread. Social media overflowed with messages of support, praising her bravery and authenticity. One post, featuring an image of Charlotte wiping her eyes, noted, "She's just like any other child." Moments like these reminded the world that the royals, too, are human. For Charlotte, who had spent much of her young life balancing her role and her identity, this outpouring of support was both comforting and eye-opening. It taught her that vulnerability was not a weakness but a way to connect with others on a deeper level. In the days following the funeral, Charlotte reflected on her great-grandmother's legacy. She admired the Queen's tireless dedication to her duties, her resilience in challenging times, and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life. These qualities left an indelible mark on Charlotte, shaping her understanding of strength, compassion, and the enduring impact of a meaningful life. Charlotte thought about the quiet times she had spent with her great-grandmother. These moments were precious, like walking through the serene grounds of Balmoral or sharing tea while listening to the Queen recount stories of her childhood. Now, those memories felt like treasures, fragments of a connection that had shaped Charlotte's understanding of herself. As she bid farewell to her great-grandmother, the funeral became more than just a goodbye, it was a moment of realization. Charlotte began to understand what it truly meant to be a member of the royal family. It wasn't about titles, ceremonies, or public appearances. It was about service and embodying hope and continuity. The Queen had lived by these principles throughout her reign, and now it was up to the next generation to carry them forward. At home, Charlotte's parents ensured she had the time and space to process her feelings. Kate, always attentive, spent quiet evenings listening as Charlotte shared her thoughts and emotions. William also took time to comfort his daughter, encouraging her to ask questions and express herself freely. These intimate conversations were crucial for Charlotte, helping her make sense of what had happened and regain her footing. As Charlotte received more encouragement from those around her, she began to see herself differently. She wasn't just a young girl navigating life as a princess, she was part of a much larger story, one that spanned centuries. This understanding brought its challenges but also gave her a deeper sense of purpose. Charlotte's tears at the funeral transformed from a painful memory into a defining moment. They reminded her, and those who witnessed them, that it was okay to feel deeply and express emotions, even in the most solemn circumstances. From this, she gained an enduring lesson about life and her role within the royal family. Over time, it seemed the world also learned from that moment. Charlotte's tears humanized the royalty, offering a glimpse of the genuine emotions behind the polished exterior. They conveyed that grief, love, and the bonds of family are universal experiences, shared by all, regardless of status. Although a small event in the grand narrative of history, those who witnessed it would not forget it. In the months following the Queen's death, the royal family settled into a new rhythm. For Charlotte, this period marked a significant shift in how she viewed herself. She reflected on the overwhelming support she received after her tearful moment, not as a sign of weakness but as a powerful testament to the strength of authenticity. She had learned that being royal didn't mean concealing her feelings but rather managing them with grace and understanding their impact on others. This realization became a cornerstone of how Charlotte approached her role, shaping her life and her place within the royal family. Charlotte often reflected on her future, not only as an individual but also as part of her family and the entire royal lineage. She pondered the role she would play in the evolving story of an institution steeped in history. She deeply admired her father's dedication to modernizing the royal family and making it more relatable to the public. Her mother's kindness and love inspired her to form meaningful connections with others. Together, her parents showed her that tradition and change could coexist, and Charlotte was determined to embody this balance in her own life. This forward-looking perspective began to surface in family conversations, particularly during their shared moments at home. Around the dinner table, the family often discussed the positives and challenges of their roles. George, always thoughtful, expressed his desire to be a kind and honest leader when it was his time to assume greater responsibility. Meanwhile, Louis, brimming with energy, brought a refreshing perspective, reminding everyone of the importance of fun and spontaneity, even in the gravest situations. Charlotte found these discussions enlightening, as they offered her a glimpse of the possibilities the future might hold. One evening, while sitting together in the living room, she posed a question to her parents that had been on her mind: "What do you think I'll remember about the monarchy?" Her father paused, carefully considering his words, and replied, "It will depend on people like you, on how you and your generation decide to move it forward. It's not enough to simply preserve traditions, they need to have meaning for the people we serve." Those words stayed with Charlotte, giving her a sense of purpose that shaped how she approached her responsibilities. Charlotte didn't see herself as a passive participant in the royal family's history. She aspired to make a meaningful impact while respecting the legacy of those who came before her. She resolved not to live according to others' expectations but to remain true to her duties and use her position to create positive change. When she reflected on her path, she often thought of her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen had always been a source of wisdom and inspiration, demonstrating how to adapt to changing times without compromising core values. Charlotte cherished the lessons imparted through her great-grandmother's stories, which emphasized resilience and a commitment to service. These lessons served as a guiding framework for navigating the complexities of her life. Charlotte also drew inspiration from her mother, who redefined what it meant to be a modern royal. Her mother's ability to balance tradition with contemporary values profoundly influenced Charlotte's approach to her role. These examples, her great-grandmother's steadfastness, her father's vision, her brother's thoughtfulness, and her mother's transformative impact, shaped Charlotte's belief that she could honor the past while forging her own meaningful path in the future. Charlotte wanted to highlight Kate's focus on mental health, her commitment to helping kids and families, and her honest way of connecting with people. These were traits she admired, recognizing how her mother used her fame to draw attention to important issues and create lasting change. It served as a reminder that being royal was not just about displaying wealth or privilege but about taking meaningful action. As Charlotte grew, her hobbies began to reflect her potential role in the royal family. She loved spending time outdoors and often went on walks with her mother in the countryside. Her interest in art also flourished, offering her comfort and a sense of freedom through painting and drawing. Additionally, she was naturally curious about people, eager to hear their stories and understand their experiences. These budding interests provided her with a sense of direction and a foundation for the impact she hoped to make one day. Charlotte was aware that the government and society would need to adapt to a rapidly changing world. Issues like climate change, mental health, and social equality were becoming prominent, and she believed these were areas where she could make a meaningful difference. Although she didn't have all the answers, she grew increasingly determined to use her voice and position to advocate for change. Over the years, Charlotte's role in the royal family evolved, and her confidence and poise became evident with each public appearance. Despite her growing responsibilities, her family ensured she could develop at her own pace, striking a balance between the duties of adulthood and the joys of childhood. Her brothers remained her closest companions, and their shared experiences only strengthened their bond. Charlotte often reflected on how people perceived her. She hoped they saw more than just a title or a carefully curated image. It was important to her that they recognized a girl who loved her family, cared about the world, and was motivated to make a difference. She understood that her journey was just beginning, but she felt ready to face its challenges and seize its opportunities. During moments of reflection, Charlotte felt hopeful about the future. She saw the kingdom not merely as a collection of rules but as a living story, a narrative of strength, service, and relationships. She was proud to be part of that story and eager to help shape its next chapter. One evening, Charlotte sat by her window and watched the soft glow of twilight settle over the palace grounds. The scene filled her with a sense of calm and determination. She understood that she didn't need to have all the answers right away. What mattered most were not the steps she would take or the lessons she would learn, but the people she would meet along the way. The story of her life was hers to write, and she was ready to share it. This marks the conclusion of today's movie. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to watch more on the channel.